Breathe in slowly, let your chest rise like the tide, and then fall again. Here, in the hush of night, your body becomes a vast and quiet temple. Each breath a gentle breeze through a cathedral of living cells. Inside those cells, in places smaller than you can see, something ancient resides. A coiled thread, soft as memory, rests there, twisting, folding, hiding. This is your DNA. This is your story, written in a code you did not choose, but carry nonetheless. You do not feel it working, yet it is always there. Right now, even as your eyelids grow heavier, your cells are reading from this code, copying, repairing, responding. They are humming a silent song that began long before you took your first breath. Imagine a scroll impossibly long, with letters not made of ink but of chemicals. TGC, just 4 shapes, repeating in endless combinations. Each cell in your body carries this scroll, curled tightly into its center like a secret. And that secret, somehow, is you. Your height, your voice, the curve of your nose, the way your heart speeds when you laugh, the texture of your hair, the color of your eyes, even your likelihood to sneeze when you step into sunlight. These are the echoes of your genetic script. But you are not just one thing written once. You are trillions of cells, and each one holds a copy of your book. Together, they form a kind of biological chorus, each singing a part of your melody, each one responding to the same notes, yet expressing them in different tones. Bone, skin, blood, nerve. Somewhere inside you, right now, cells are dividing. When they do, they must copy the code again. Not a page or two, but all of it. Billions of letters, faithfully transcribed. And even when tiny mistakes slip in, your cells often catch them, correct them, or adapt. Because your body is not just a reader of the code. It is a quiet editor too. Think of DNA as more than a blueprint. It is a recipe, a river of instructions, a guide not only for what you are but for what you might become. And like rivers, DNA flows through time. Not just your own life, but back through generations, through parents and grandparents, and back beyond memory or history. Within you, in this very moment of stillness, drift echoes of ancestors you never knew. A grandmother's resilience, a distant uncle's smile, the shadow of an ancient traveler's endurance. Even the very first humans, those who walked under starlit African skies long before cities, before language, they too carry pieces of the same code. Some of those ancient words still whisper in your cells. You are part of a lineage older than mountains, a lineage that began in the ocean, in tiny, single-celled beings who first learned to divide, that learned to remember, to carry instructions forward. The code that became you, it survived ice ages and fire, famine and storm, the rise and fall of empires. It passed through cradle after cradle, each time reshaped slightly, but never broken. You are not just made of cells, but of time. And time, too, leaves its fingerprints. Each stretch of your DNA carries chapters you don't need now, but your ancestors once did. A gene that once helped digest raw starch. Another that once made more hair grow in cold places. These are leftovers from older lives. Your body remembers them even if your mind does not. And this remembering, it is not static. Sometimes, when cells make a copy of the code, a single letter might be changed. And if that change lingers, it might travel into the next generation. A small change, a single letter out of billions, and yet it could mean a new shade of skin, a stronger resistance to disease, a subtle shift in how the heart beats. These small changes, these random whispers, they are the breath of evolution, the way life adapts, nudges, shifts, not in leaps but in slow spirals, always dancing with time. Now, as you lie still, imagine if you could touch that spiral, not just inherit its rhythm, but change its music. Imagine if, for the first time, humans had not only the story but the pen. This thought hovers like a feather at the edge of sleep. Can something so old, so sacred, so complex it sings in silence? Can it be edited on purpose? What would that look like? What would that mean? And if someone could rewrite even a single letter of your code, not because of chance but by choice, what might they change? What would stay? Would you still be you? Breathe in again slowly. Let the wonder soften your body. Let your thoughts ripple outward, like light on a lake. For just beyond the edge of your awareness, in the smallest corners of nature, something is learning to hold a blade of light, a tool delicate enough to cut the code, and precise enough to aim. You turn gently toward this new chapter, where the story of CRISPR quietly begins. You are drifting now, weightless in thought. The code inside you hums like a distant lullaby, unchanging, or so it once seemed. But somewhere, not long ago, a new note was struck. Not from the stars, not from ancient bones, but from the smallest warriors of life, bacteria. Yes, bacteria, the tiny, ancient creatures that surround you. That live within your gut and under your fingernails. That float unseen in the breath of the world. For all their simplicity, they hold a secret. A clever trick sharpened by billions of years of struggle. In their world, viruses roam like thieves in the night, slipping into bacterial homes and trying to overwrite their code. But bacteria have a memory. They keep tiny pieces of viral invaders tucked safely in their own DNA. Like mugshots pasted into an invisible scrapbook, these fragments form the basis of a defense system. They let the bacteria recognize an old enemy and call forth a molecular weapon, Cas9, a protein shaped by evolution, quiet and exacting. Cas9 is a pair of scissors, but not scissors made of metal. Scissors made of atoms and shape and logic. Scissors that do not cut paper, but slice the very fabric of genetic code, one clean line at a time. Imagine holding such a tool. A blade that can cut exactly where you ask it to. No blood, no tear, just a precise snip in a spiraling staircase of molecules. This is CRISPR, Cas9, born from humble bacteria, now cradled in the hands of scientists. CRISPR stands for clustered, regularly interspaced, short palindromic repeats. The name is long, mechanical, oddly cold. But what it means is this: a way of remembering, a pattern of defense, a system of recognition and response, like a map passed down through time, marking where danger has been before, and when the danger returns. Cas9 is guided by memory to the exact spot. It binds to the DNA of the invader. It pauses, and then, with invisible hands, it makes its cut. This moment, this soft, molecular gesture, is the heart of modern gene editing, because scientists saw the elegance in this system and asked a question that changed everything. What if we could guide the scissors to any place we choose? What if, instead of only defending against viruses, CRISPR could be turned toward our own DNA, to correct a mutation, to remove a faulty gene, to add something that was missing? It was like finding a pencil buried in the sand and realizing it could write not only names, but futures. Now, in labs all over the world, researchers are doing just that. They design tiny guides, strands of RNA, each one leading Cas9 to a precise address in the genome. And once there, it cuts, not chaotically, not randomly, but with the precision of a surgeon trained by nature itself. Once the cut is made, the cell notices. It rushes to repair the break like fingers closing a torn page. And in that moment of healing, scientists can step in, offering a correction, a new sentence, a different phrase. It is gentle, in a way, like whispering to the body. You don't have to carry this mistake anymore. Here is something better. Here is a chance to begin again. And yet, you feel it, don't you? The double edge of that power. Because with every tool that mends, there lies the question, what else might we use it for? Could we use CRISPR not just to heal, but to change what was never broken? To make something better? Though we haven't yet agreed on what that means? As these thoughts drift softly through your mind, let them settle like snow on your chest, light, uncertain still. The science is real, and so is the awe. We have taken a trick of bacteria and turned it into a wand for the genome, a scalpel that glows without heat, a light that can enter the spiral of life and move it slightly. You don't have to rush to understand it all. CRISPR is not just a discovery, it's a beginning, a way of asking deeper questions about who we are and how we might shape who comes next. For now, rest in the wonder of it, the simplicity of the tool, the elegance of its origin, the astonishing truth that something so small could hold such extraordinary power. And just beyond this still moment, you begin to sense what came next. A whisper, a trial. The first time someone reached into the human code and made an edit of their own. The scissors are in hand now, steady, gleaming, quiet. They rest not in fingers, but in molecules. And yet, they wait all the same, waiting for the first courageous cut. You drift now into clean, white rooms, sterile, humming with quiet machines. soft with the breath of cautious hope. These are the places where science steps gently, where the air smells of patience, and the future is held with gloves. Before human cells were touched, researchers turned first to simpler lives. Yeast, fruit flies, worms no thicker than a thread. Creatures with fewer genes, with quicker lives, but codes that share surprising echoes of our own. In their DNA, scientists practiced the dance. They changed a gene here, corrected a letter there. They watched how an extra limb formed, how a glowing protein flickered like a lantern in the dark. And slowly, the process grew less strange, less like magic and more like knowledge. From fruit flies, they turned to mice, warm-blooded, breathing closer. Mice born without the burden of a disease their ancestors had carried for generations. Mice with stronger bones, with sharper memory, with eyes that did not go blind in early light. And then the question could no longer be set aside. What about us? What about children born with cruel mutations? Disorders locked deep inside their cells, causing suffering no child should know? The first edits came not in the womb, but in the blood. White blood cells drawn from sick children, their faulty genes corrected in the lab, then gently returned like a note rewritten, and folded back into its envelope. In trials, some children with sickle cell disease found relief in ways they had never known. Pain, once relentless, began to fade. Their blood cells flowed more freely. The shape of life made round again. These were not the edits of ambition. These were edits of mercy, tiny acts of repair. No more daring than resetting a bone, no less miraculous than mending a heart. But healing always opens a wider door. In 2018, the world paused. A scientist in China stepped across a threshold few had thought would come so soon. He claimed to have edited embryos, not to heal illness, but to make them resistant to a virus, HIV. Twin girls were born. Their names are quiet now, hidden from the world, but their genes changed before birth may carry the first deliberate marks of CRISPR in humanity's next generation. And here, your thoughts slow, because this is not just a story of technique, but of choice. A line was crossed softly, like a toe dipped in water not yet charted. You imagine their futures. Two girls who may grow never knowing the full reach of the change inside them. Was it protection? Was it risk? And who decides when the edit is not for healing, but for advantage? The world responded with unease, not with rejection, but with warning. Not all science is ready to run. And yet, the scissors remain, more refined, more precise. They hover over diseases we still fear. Huntington's, cystic fibrosis, muscular dystrophy. Illnesses carved into the double helix, waiting for a gentler hand to change their story. Tonight, you lie between two truths. The code can be edited, and edits once made may echo forward. You wonder what makes an edit right. Is it intent? Is it consent? Is it the absence of suffering? Or the presence of understanding? Sleep presses at your thoughts now. The room within you quiets. But one question drifts on, like smoke trailing from a single flame. If we can change the script before a child is born, could we also design what that child becomes? Would we choose only health? Or would we reach for something more? And in that gentle space between wonder and worry, you turn softly into the next chapter, where tomorrow's children wait in possibility, and the choices we cradle begin to bloom. You lie quietly now, your body resting, but your mind steps softly into a space not yet real, a space woven from questions, from futures still unborn. Imagine a child not yet conceived. Not a name, not a face, just possibility, like the still surface of a pond before the first ripple. Now imagine that pond surrounded by choices, each one a soft voice asking, would you like the child to see clearly, always? Would you like stronger bones, faster reflexes? Should they grow tall? Should they be free of the family illness that runs like a shadow through generations? You feel the breath of these questions. They are light at first. They promise kindness, protection. They carry the music of hope. And they are no longer science fiction. With CRISPR, the potential to alter life at its earliest spark is not a distant idea. It's a tool resting in our hands, still new, still delicate, but already reshaping what may be. In theory, the edits could be made before the first cell divides. At the single-cell stage, before the body unfolds its miracle. The genome could be touched, a letter replaced, a mutation erased, or even an enhancement introduced. Stronger muscle fibers, sharper memory potential, a resistance to future diseases that haven't yet come into being. And if one edit works, why not another? Why stop at removing harm when we could also add benefit? Why not adjust traits that feel less like survival and more like aspiration? Height, beauty, temperament, intelligence. You feel the questions rising like steam in the night. They are not loud, but they are persistent. Would this child be more loved? More accepted? Would they belong more easily to a world that already confuses perfection with worth? Or would they be burdened by the knowledge that they were chosen, shaped, the result of 1,000 hopes they had no say in? You picture a quiet clinic, a soft-lit screen, 2 embryos side by side. One carries the standard script, the other a slight alteration, stronger heart function, slightly better cognition, a lowered risk of anxiety. Both healthy, both possible. Which would you choose? And if you don't choose who will? Science has always moved faster than comfort. It is the nature of discovery. But comfort matters too, and culture and caution and care. You feel the future shifting beneath your thoughts. Not dramatically, just a gentle tilt like the earth leaning towards spring. In some countries, editing embryos is forbidden. In others, it is debated. And in still others, quietly explored. Some researchers speak only of preventing disease. Others whisper of enhancement. And some caution that even good intentions can slip too easily into quiet control. Because who decides what is better? Who defines a good life? A good mind? A good child? You let these thoughts settle like dust on a windowsill. Not to answer them, but to witness them. Maybe you remember the soft weight of a baby in your arms. Or maybe you imagine it. Tiny fingers closed tight around nothing and everything. Eyes blinking into a world they did not choose. That child, any child, comes into being with a story already unfolding. A story shaped by genes, but also by family, by love, by chance. CRISPR may one day let us write the opening lines. But what we cannot predict is the life that will follow. Genes are not destiny. They are scaffolding, a frame upon which billions of moments will hang. They do not tell you what to love, what to fear, what to dream of. They cannot write character. They cannot script soul. So tonight, as you lie between possibility and peace, you cradle the idea of tomorrow's child. Not as a project, not as a product, but as a mystery, one that science can touch, but never fully know. And just beyond this chapter, there is another garden, not of genetics, but of ethics, where every step taken in the name of progress must also be weighed in the name of wisdom. You turn now toward that garden, its gate just beginning to open, and its path winding quietly into the shadows. You walk now beneath imagined moonlight, the night around you hushed and deep. Before you stretches a garden, not of flowers or fruit, but of questions. This is the place where science meets soul, where bright tools glimmer quietly beside shadowed thoughts, where every answer brings with it another seed of uncertainty. You step carefully, for this is the garden of ethics, and its beauty lies in its complexity. The ground beneath you is soft with care, trampled not by hasty feet, but gently worn by thinkers, teachers, healers, parents. People who ask not only can we but should we? CRISPR is powerful, a gift drawn from the smallest beings, amplified by the brightest minds. But gifts like these come wrapped in weight. When you edit a gene in a person, especially one not yet born, you are not only treating a symptom, you are planting something permanent, a change that may pass to children and grandchildren, unfolding through time like ripples from a single stone. And so, the garden grows cautious. In one corner, there is hope, the hope to erase suffering, to free a child from pain before their first breath, to let love protect more fully than ever before. But across from it grows another plant, dark-leaved and silent. It wonders, what if this power is not shared equally? What if only some can afford to design healthier, stronger children? What if we create not just advantage, but division? You sit beneath its shade for a moment. Let the question settle into your chest. A world already shaped by inequality could stretch further still? If some walk with edited genes, while others are left to carry what they inherited without choice. And what a beauty! Of intelligence? Of disposition? These things are not simple. They are shaped by life, by culture, by mystery. And yet the temptation may grow to reduce them to code, to pursue ideals that reflect not truth, but bias. In the garden, an old fear stirs. The echo of eugenics, a time when humans sought to breed out what they deemed undesirable. It was not science that failed then, but humanity. CRISPR does not carry this history, but people do. And so the memory matters. We must be watchful, not only of what we edit, but of why. You walk on. Each step is quiet. Your breath is slow. In another corner of the garden, you find a gentler thought. That choice can be kind, when wielded humbly, to prevent a life of suffering, to spare a family heartbreak, to offer a child a future free from a cruel disease. These are not ambitions, but compassions. And yet, ethics asks us to pause, to remember that compassion must be clear-eyed, that even kindness needs reflection. Would the child consent if they could? Would they feel whole, knowing they had been shaped before they had words? These are not questions with easy answers, but the asking is part of the care. And then there is the question of nature, of trust. Is it arrogant to edit what evolution has written? Or is it loving to correct what evolution overlooked? Some say we must not play God. Others say we already do it. When we vaccinate, when we operate, when we offer medicine that defies mortality. Perhaps the truth lies not in the label, but in the intent. If we move with reverence, if we stay rooted in humility, if we use these tools as servants, not masters, perhaps the garden will grow in balance. And so tonight, as you rest deeper into this quiet space, you let the questions move through you, like wind through tall grass. You do not hold them tightly. You simply let them pass. Let them brush your thoughts. Let them make room. Because ethics is not a fence. It is a path that must be walked again and again. With each new discovery, each new possibility, the tools may be sharp, but your choices, they must be soft, careful, open. You turn now toward the next bend in the trail, and ahead under the stars. A new question waits. What if an edit doesn't change all of you, but only some parts, scattered through your body like reflections in dew? What happens when change is not whole, but partial, like a mosaic of light and shadow, drawn across your skin? Now you are deeper still, cradled by quiet, rocked gently by the rhythm of your breath. The world outside dims, and the world inside unfolds. You are not a single story. You are a mosaic, a living patchwork of possibility, woven together by nature's hand, and occasionally by ours. Tonight, your mind drifts to a concept quiet and curious. Mosaicism. Sounds like art, and in a way it is. A mosaic is made of pieces, tiles, stones, fragments, each holding its own color, its own light. So too your body. Though your DNA begins the same in every cell, sometimes change comes late. An edit made after the first division, after the earliest days of life, might reach only some of you. Picture a garden where only half the flowers receive sun. Some bloom brighter, others stay shaded, and the garden still grows. This is mosaicism, a person composed of slightly different selves. Not one perfect copy repeated trillions of times, but variations, subtle, scattered, silent. In the context of CRISPR, this becomes more than a curiosity. It becomes a limit, a gentle reminder that control, even in science, is never absolute. When editing is done early in development, there is hope that every cell will carry the change. But often it does not reach them all. Some cells remain untouched, others shift only slightly, and what emerges is not a single rewrite, but a layered, living mosaic. It may be enough. If the goal was to remove a disease, and enough cells are changed, the illness may not appear. Relief is real even in partial form. But sometimes the patchwork matters. A gene edited in the brain but not in the heart. In blood but not in bones. The outcome becomes unpredictable. A story told in multiple voices at once. You lie still now, feeling the cells beneath your skin. They are busy with lives of their own, and each carries its own chapter of you. Even without CRISPR, you are a mosaic. Random mutations arise during your life, from sun, from age, from chance. Some cells shift course quietly, some grow old faster, some forget how to stop dividing. Yet somehow you remain whole. You remain you, because you are not defined by perfection, but by harmony. And so, mosaicism is not a flaw. It is a fact of being alive. A proof that identity does not require uniformity. That difference can dwell within us and still make sense. CRISPR adds another layer, an intention within the randomness, a choice amid the chance. Scientists learn to work with this, to measure which cells were changed, to predict how those changes might ripple outward. It is not easy. The body, in its complexity, resists simplification. You may touch one part, only to discover that the others respond in ways you did not expect. This, too, is the beauty of biology. Its unpredictability, its refusal to be reduced. So as you breathe slowly now, let yourself be comforted by the truth that perfection has never been the goal. In art, a mosaic is beautiful, not because every tile matches, but because every piece contributes. So it is with you. Each cell, each strand of code, each moment of growth or change or repair, together they make the person you are. And as gene editing grows more refined, we will learn to work with that truth, not against it. We will edit not for sameness, but for healing, not to erase complexity, but to honor it, to guide it gently, without the illusion of control. Now, as your thoughts drift like leaves on water, you wonder, what happens when the mosaic is passed on? When a single change, whether full or partial, enters the next generation? How far do the ripples reach? What echoes do they carry? In the stillness, you turn toward the next chapter, where edits, once made, begin to travel, and the whispers of inheritance stretch into time. You rest now in the soft glow of possibility. The air around your thoughts feels lighter, warmer, like dawn just beginning to bloom behind closed eyes. There is a hush in your chest, a sense that something sacred is being imagined. Tonight we follow the path of healing, not through medicine in bottles, but through instructions written in the fabric of being. CRISPR, the tool shaped by nature, has become a whisper in the language of life. And through it, we speak now to the deepest parts of suffering. You picture a child not yet born, tiny, curled within the shelter of a mother's body, unaware of the story written into every cell. A story that carries pain, not from anything done or chosen, but from an inherited twist of code. Sickle cell anemia, spinal muscular atrophy, thalassemia, diseases carved into the double helix like scars. They do not wait for life to begin. They are there from the start. But what if we could gently rewrite the sentence? Not to erase the child, not to replace them, but to give them the same beginning, without the weight. This is the dream whispered in research labs, beneath the hum of microscopes, in the quiet conversations of parents, and in the pages of possibility unfolding. CRISPR offers a chance to step in early, to intervene where illness is certain, where suffering is inevitable, and offer another path. You imagine the process, slow and deliberate. Scientists gather the embryo cells. They read the code, find the known mutation, a single base pair wrong but fixable. With practiced hands and careful breath, they guide CRISPR to the site. The molecular scissors hover, then make the cut, precise, swift, silent. In the space where pain would have bloomed, correction takes root. A new letter, a repaired line, a shift so small it is invisible, but monumental, and the embryo continues, dividing, growing, unfolding into a body free of the illness it never knew it had. You breathe more deeply now. The idea settles into you, a future where parents no longer dread diagnoses, where some diseases fade not with treatment, but with prevention, not reactive but graceful. It is already happening. In trials across the world, CRISPR has begun to bring change. In children with genetic blindness, cells are edited directly in the eye, tiny corrections to restore light. In sickle cell patients, blood stem cells are edited outside the body, then returned like messengers of hope. Some experience freedom from pain for the first time in memory. These are not dreams. They are results, measured not just in numbers, but in laughter returned, in futures reopened. And yet, with each miracle comes a murmur of caution, not because the science is wrong, but because the human story is wide and woven with complexity. No edit is isolated. Even a cure must consider its context. Will this be available to all or only a few? Will we value every life, even those we cannot yet fix? Will we rush ahead with joy or walk with reverence? You lie still beneath these thoughts, Let them swirl like petals on slow wind. There is no need to answer now, just to feel the depth of what is unfolding. Because healing is not only about changing the body, it is about honoring the person within it. And no code, no matter how elegant, can define the worth of a human soul. Some in the disabled community speak gently, reminding us that to cure is not always to improve. That difference is not always suffering. That identity can be built with what is, not just what might be. And they are right. Healing must listen. It must hold both science and silence, both action and humility. CRISPR is a tool, but it must never become a ruler. It is a way to offer hope, not a measure of value. So tonight, as you rest, you breathe into the soft edge of this promise. That one day, many who suffer now may not have to. That babies may be born without the shadow of disease. That their lives might begin, not in fear, but in freedom. And yet, you also hold space for those whose healing will not come through editing, but through understanding, through kindness, through society learning to embrace difference, without needing to erase it. You feel how delicate the balance truly is. The scissors may cut clean, but the decisions surrounding them require deep, patient reflection. And just beyond this chapter, a larger question gathers. Before CRISPR, nature was the only author of change. Slow, elegant, and often random. But now, with this new pen in hand, how do we write, without losing reverence for the story that came before? There is something sacred in slowness. And tonight, as your thoughts drift beneath the surface of sleep, you find yourself tracing the long, ancient rhythm of change. A rhythm written not by hands, but by time itself. Before CRISPR, before labs and letters and precise edits, there was another editor at work, patient, relentless, without hurry and without mercy. Evolution. You can feel its echo in your bones, in the curve of your spine, in the way your thumb presses against your fingers. You are a being shaped by millions of tiny accidents. Some helpful, some not, woven together by the slow loom of survival. Nature edits not with intention, but with chance. A mutation here, a deletion there. Some disappearing with the wind. Others surviving because they helped just enough. A thicker coat in the cold. Lungs that adapt to thinner air. A stronger heart on longer migrations. And over time, these changes become us. Not all at once, but like water carving stone. You are the result of those edits. Not just the ones that succeeded, but the ones that failed and fell away. You are the story that endured. Now with CRISPR, we move differently. Faster, with vision and direction. Not randomness. We do not wait for chance to help us adapt. We intervene. We adjust. We choose. It is a profound shift, not only in biology, but in belief. Because when humans begin to change their own code, we are not just subject to nature. We are participating in it, steering the current of a river we once only floated on. And here, you pause. Feel the weight of that thought. It is not wrong to want change, to lessen pain, to improve life, to extend health. But in doing so, are we still part of the same story? Is this evolution? Or is it something new? You breathe into the question, not to answer it, but to rest with it. Because nature's edits come slowly, and often through loss. A species evolves when others do not survive. A trait becomes dominant because something else failed. The cost of change, historically, has been suffering. But what if we could spare that? What if we could evolve without loss? Could CRISPR be the bridge between nature's cruelty and our compassion? That is the wonder and the worry. Some scientists say yes. They imagine a future where humanity improves itself, without waiting for disaster, where we anticipate harm and remove it before it takes root. Others remind us, nature is not something to outrun. It is something to remain in relationship with, to listen to learn from, even as we add our own voices to the chorus. Because every change we make, every edit, every choice, does not just affect us. It echoes across generations. It shapes how we see one another, and how we value what is natural. Already we draw invisible lines between what we call real and what we call engineered. But what if those lines are illusions? You are already a mosaic of the natural and the altered. You've had vaccines, maybe medications. You may wear glasses, or carry a metal pin in your knee. You live in buildings, eat from faraway lands, use tools your ancestors could not dream of. Where does nature end? Where does human begin? Perhaps there is no line, only a long, winding path, where we walk alongside nature, sometimes ahead, sometimes behind, sometimes with trembling hands, as we write beside her in the margins. So tonight, you do not fear the edit, but you respect it. You feel its power and its need for care, because even as we write, we must still listen to the quiet voice of the earth, to the deep logic of life that has outlived empires. You turn now toward another thought, gentle but profound. When we change one line of our code, how far does that ripple travel? Into a family? A generation? A world? You drift deeper now, toward the next chapter, where a single change doesn't stay small, but echoes forward, like a name spoken through time. Now you drift into the quiet halls of time, each step soft, each breath slower. The past and future begin to blur, folding gently around you like a woven shawl. And somewhere in that stillness, you begin to understand. A single change is never truly alone. Imagine a drop of water falling into a calm lake. The moment is small, but from it, ripples extend in every direction, touching shores that may never have seen the rain. So it is with genetic edits. A small correction, one letter in a 3 billion letter code, and a child is born free of disease. That child grows, laughs, learns, perhaps has children of their own. And in those children, the correction continues, quietly echoing forward. One change, 10 lives touched, 100 shaped, 1,000 altered over centuries to come. You begin to see the sweep of it, not a single life transformed, but a lineage rewritten. This is called germline editing, and it means editing not only the individual, but every future that may come from them. Eggs, sperm, embryos, the very beginning. CRISPR can, in some cases, slip into these earliest places, where the first cells are still dividing, and change what will be inherited. The edits, if successful, don't fade with time. They persist. They pass on, like an heirloom held in the blood. And so, the echo is not optional. It's inevitable. You rest in that knowledge for a while. There is comfort in continuity, a chance to pass along something better, a freedom from disease, a shield against suffering. But there is also weight, because while healing feels like kindness, permanence feels like power, and power asks for reflection. What happens if the change we make is flawed? Not just ineffective, but mistaken? Not harmful today, but misunderstood tomorrow? You breathe slowly, letting the thought expand and recede. Because once something is written into the germline, it is no longer a decision for one person. It becomes part of a future no one living today will fully see. That is the paradox of editing inheritance. We do it with hope, but the ones who live with the edits do not get to choose them. And yet, this is not new. Every generation inherits choices made before them. Language, culture, history, and now perhaps genes. Our ancestors gifted us resilience, but also risk. They gave us strength, and sometimes suffering. We are who we are, because of changes made long before memory. What CRISPR offers is not the ability to avoid inheritance, but to guide it, to shift the story we hand down, just a little more gently. Still, you must ask, are we prepared to be remembered? Not just by what we build, but by what we edit. Will future generations thank us for removing pain, or will they carry questions we cannot imagine? You let your breath slow again. There is no answer yet. There is only awareness. Some edits may save lives. Others may be forgotten. Still others may lead to surprises. Not all of them welcome, because biology is not code. In the way a machine understands it, it is living, responding, entangled. What helps in one context may hinder in another. A change that seems good today may carry hidden trade-offs tomorrow. That's the challenge of echoing forward. You cannot choose only the sound you want to keep. So scientists step carefully. Some call for strict limits. Others push forward, driven by urgency, by potential, and between them lies a growing need for shared wisdom, not just technical precision. but long, patient thought. You begin to feel that wisdom, stirring in yourself too, not as a rule book, but as a quiet sense of care. It is not wrong to want to help, to intervene, to improve, but perhaps it is most right when we do so slowly, transparently, with listening hearts, because to echo forward is to leave fingerprints on the future. And tonight, as you rest in the hush between generations, you carry the gentle awe of that responsibility. The echo of a single change may become the chorus of 1,000 lives. You feel them now, not in detail, but as warmth, as potential, as lives beginning where yours once did. And just beyond this thought, another dream unfolds. What if the future we pass down is not just healthier, but kinder? What if the edits we make are part of a larger choice, not just to live longer, but to live with more compassion? You turn now slowly toward that gentler vision, where possibility and care meet, in the soft, unspoken places of tomorrow. The night has deepened. Thoughts drift more slowly now, like lanterns on a still river. You are not seeking anything, only floating, carried softly on the current of imagination. Here, in this final chapter, you look not behind, but ahead. You've walked with CRISPR through its origins, its promise, its cautions, and its echoes. Now you rest in the dream of what might come, not to predict, but to wonder. Close your eyes, even if only in your mind, and picture a world touched gently by this science, not ruled by it, not reshaped hastily, but nurtured. A child is born in a village, free from a disease that once ran through generations. A mother weeps with relief, not because her child is exceptional, but because they are whole. In another place, doctors use CRISPR to tailor medicine, not to the average body, but to your body. Every treatment a conversation between code and care. And further still, farmers use it to grow crops that need less water, that survive heat and nourish more people, without harming the soil or the seasons. This is not a dream of perfection. It is a dream of enough, of sufficiency, of shared benefit. And in this dream, science walks with ethics. Every breakthrough is met, not only with applause, but with a question. Is this kind? Is this just? Who does this serve? You feel how different that future is, not just in what it builds, but in how it listens. We will still make mistakes. We will still learn by trial. But perhaps we will do so more gently, more together. For this future to come, it isn't enough to edit genes. We must also edit systems, habits, and hearts, to ensure that access is not just for the wealthy, that choice is not mistaken for pressure, that health is not confused with worth. Because gene editing, like all tools, reflects the hands that hold it. If held with care, can repair, empower, heal. If held with haste, it may divide, exclude, or control. But in this dream, you choose the gentler way, not editing to chase an ideal, but to widen the path, for more lives to walk freely, not erasing difference, but reducing unnecessary pain, honoring the complex harmony of who we are. You breathe in and feel the quiet possibility settle in your chest, the idea that our future is not a question of capability, but of compassion. And as the world drifts further into sleep around you, you realize science alone does not shape the future. We do. In every conversation, every pause for reflection, every time we choose care over speed, transparency over secrecy, inclusion over advantage. These are the true edits, the ones that shape the world, far more deeply than molecules ever could. And so, you do not need to decide tonight what is right or wrong. You need only to rest in the wonder that we are alive, at the edge of such a choice, that we get to ask these questions. Together, will the future be more fair? Will it be more wise? Will we treat life, coded or not, as sacred? You close your eyes now, wrapped in the quiet of not knowing. There is peace in the uncertainty, because curiosity remains. because care remains, because the story is still being written. And just before sleep claims you, you feel something gentle move through you, not an answer, but a promise, that dreaming the future kindly may be the most human act of all. You lie still. The weight of the day slowly fades like a tide receding from shore. Your breath is calm, your body soft as night folds gently around you. On the surface, there is peace, stillness, silence, but underneath that quiet, something else stirs. Beneath the fabric of your blanket, beneath your skin, deeper than blood or bone, the world does not rest. It never rests. At this very moment, particles impossibly small and endlessly restless vibrate, flicker, appear and vanish in delicate rhythms. They are not fixed. They are not slow. They are not still. The stillness you feel is only a dream of scale. The deeper you go, the more the rules begin to blur. What seems solid becomes spacious. What seems certain begins to shimmer. The ground beneath you is not unmoving. It is a dance of probabilities, a murmur of energy that never quite stops. Even in absolute darkness, at temperatures colder than the coldest reaches of space, particles still twitch and twist like fireflies in a field of sleep. This is the quantum world, the world of the very small, the very strange. You don't have to see it to know it's there. You are made of it. Imagine now gently that you could shrink. Not by inches or even millimeters, but down through the weave of cells, past molecules, past atoms. Down into the realm where matter loses its clarity. Where the laws you've trusted start to stretch and sway. You are falling, but softly. Drifting through scale. In this world, a particle might be here, or there, or somewhere in between. It might go left, or right, or both. It is not disobedient. It is simply free from the rules we once thought unbreakable. Time, location, motion all begin to take on new meanings. A single electron swirls not as a point, but as a cloud of maybes. You pass by it, and though it does not notice you, you can feel the edges of its mystery brush against you like silk. It is not alone. The air around you is thick with these soft ghosts of matter. Photons blink into existence. Neutrinos whisper past. The deeper you go, the more the air seems to hum with invisible life. And yet it is not chaos. It is not noise. It is a kind of order that is stranger than silence. At this level, things don't behave as they should. Not by any familiar logic. Particles pass through each other. Some refuse to stay in one place. Others seem to change what they are simply by being watched. This is not metaphor. This is reality as seen through the lens of quantum mechanics. You are inside the fabric of it now, and the fabric is alive. The laws you've known up to this point, gravity, momentum, solidity, are the laws of the large, the comfortable, the visible. But these laws are not the only laws. They are the averages, the softened edges of something deeper and more mysterious. Down here, uncertainty is not a flaw. It is the shape of the world. A particle can be on one side of a wall and then appear on the other, not by climbing, not by crossing, but by being there. No force, no visible path, just presence. As if the universe whispered, why not? This is the beginning of quantum tunneling. But we will not rush there yet. First, you rest in this understanding. Beneath every still thing is movement. Beneath every certainty, a field of chance. What you took for quiet was only distance. What you took for rules were only averages. In the space between particles, there is room for mystery. Even in you, especially in you, the quantum world is alive. Your atoms breathe. Your electrons shift. Your particles entangle, separate, flirt with invisibility. You are a living contradiction to everything the world once thought was fixed. Even now, you are more possibility than thing. And this somehow is comforting, because it means that stillness does not require silence. That rest does not mean lifelessness. That the world can hold motion and calm in the same breath. Outside, the night is quiet. But inside, the world is gently electric. You imagine yourself as part of it, not apart from it. Not an observer, but a participant in the quantum hush. Every breath you take stirs the air that once passed through stars. Every cell you carry remembers a time when it was scattered light. You are the result of countless impossible things happening anyway. You are made from mystery. And so, as you lie there, gently drifting into the warmth of rest, you begin to let go of the idea that the world must always make sense. You start to welcome the impossible. Not because it breaks rules, but because it reminds you that some rules were only ever guesses. The deeper you drift, the more you feel the shape of something unfolding. A new way of seeing. A new way of being. The classical world, the one of apples falling and arrows flying, is not wrong. It is simply the surface. A reflection. A useful dream. But beneath it, something stranger waits. You begin to sense the veil thinning. A curtain between the world you know and the one that waits beneath. You don't need to lift it all at once. Just take a breath and begin to imagine. What happens when the veil starts to shimmer and logic itself begins to blur? The veil has always been there. You just never noticed it. Thin, like breath on glass. It sits between what you know and what truly is. Not to hide, but to soften. Not to trick, but to protect. To ease you into the truth with patience. All your life, you've lived by rules. The kind you can see and name. Balls fall. Water flows downhill. One thing leads to another. Cause and effect, the comfort of the clockwork. These are the laws of Newton, the frame you inherited. They govern the swing of playgrounds, the arc of raindrops, the turning of wheels. Predictable. Honest. Understandable. And useful. But tonight, as your body settles deeper into the quiet, your mind begins to loosen its grip. The world of straight lines and sturdy walls softens around the edges. Something in you, something ancient, knows that reality is not so rigid. Close your eyes. Imagine a marble rolling across a table. It slows, then stops. You understand this. Friction. Energy lost. You were taught that nothing moves without a push. That the world resists change unless acted upon. But let the marble shrink. Let it become an atom. A particle. A quantum thing. Now watch again. It does not stop. It pulses. It may be here or there. It may even pass through the table entirely. The push? Optional. The resistance? Uncertain. Here, the rules don't hold. Classical logic tells you that to climb over a wall, you need energy. You must leap or climb or build a ladder. You must do. And so, for centuries, we imagined the universe as a grand machine, gears turning, inputs and outputs in perfect tune. But the quantum world is not a machine. It is more like a song. Its notes are not fixed, but woven from waves. Each particle a melody of chance. And those walls we imagined? Sometimes the notes slip through them. Not with violence, but with permission. The veil, you see, begins to shimmer. It is not torn or forced. It yields like silk, like breath. The firm logic of cause and effect dissolves into something more mysterious. Probabilities. Potentials. Maybes. This does not mean that everything is chaos. Far from it. The quantum world is deeply ordered, just not in ways our senses are built to perceive. It moves by rhythm, not reason. By pattern, not prediction. You let go just a little. Think of a coin flipping in the air. Classical logic tells you, heads or tails. A single answer. But in the quantum world, that coin hangs suspended in both states at once. Not until it lands or until you look. Your gaze changes the story. And here, you begin to understand the veil not as a barrier, but a translator. It allowed you to live in a world of clocks and apples and falling leaves, while underneath, the true dance continued unseen. The certainty you trusted was always approximate. A gentle lie told by nature to keep your feet steady. But now in this soft, dark hour, you are ready to know more. The rules still work, but they are not the whole story. Even in dreams, you know this. You walk through walls. You fly. You change shape. You appear in places you never traveled. In the quantum world, particles do the same. Not with magic, with mathematics. And what beautiful mathematics it is. Equations that shimmer with ambiguity. Waves that speak of possibilities, not certainties. It is not so different from a poem, a description of truth that does not demand to be literal. You are safe in your bed and yet you travel. Past Newton. Past certainty. Into a place where motion is not only action, but permission. Where location is a suggestion. Where particles may know of each other, even when separated by galaxies. You breathe, and for a moment, you let yourself be part of it. The veil is thin now. You begin to see how the classical world was a kindness, a way to begin the story without overwhelming the listener. Like telling a child about the sun before explaining the stars. But now you are older. And ready to learn what barriers really mean. You feel it just beneath your thoughts. The idea that not all walls are what they seem. That in the quantum world, particles don't always take the long way around. They find paths that seem forbidden. They tunnel. And what is tunneling if not a whisper from the quantum world reminding you that limits may be illusions? The veil lifts. Not with drama, but with quiet. And beyond it. A question forms in the soft dark. What is a barrier, really? You think you know what a barrier is. A wall. A fence. A limit. Something solid that says, no further. You've met them your whole life. A locked door. A closed window. A steep hill when your legs are tired. In the world of everyday experience, barriers feel final. They are meant to contain, to resist, to divide. And so your mind grew up believing, if something doesn't have the energy to climb over a wall, it stays where it is. That's just the rule. But tonight, as your thoughts drift inward and downward, you begin to wonder, what if that rule isn't always true? Shrink again. Not your body, but your awareness. Shrink until atoms seem large. Until barriers seem blurry. Until you're floating inside the world that breathes beneath all others. You find a particle, a tiny traveler of the quantum world. It's moving, slow and steady, toward what looks like a hill. Not a real hill, not one made of stone or soil, but a potential barrier, a kind of energetic wall. Classical physics would say it doesn't have enough energy to climb this hill. It should bounce off. It should stay on the side. But you watch calmly, and something unexpected happens. The particle approaches. It quivers. And then, as if the wall were nothing more than a fog, it appears on the other side. No ladder. No hole. No passageway. Just presence. You blink slowly. You've just witnessed quantum tunneling. It's not that the particle broke the rule. It's that, at this level, the rules themselves are different. What we call a barrier, in the classical sense, is a place where energy is insufficient. But in the quantum world, nothing is exact. A particle isn't a dot, it's a wave of possibilities. And that wave doesn't stop at the edge of a wall. It stretches, fades, flows. Imagine a gentle song played in one room, heard faintly in the next. The wall doesn't stop the sound completely. It muffles, it softens, but a hint gets through. In the same way, a particle's wave function can leak through a barrier, and that leak carries possibility with it. It's not that the particle drills through. It simply might be on the other side. And sometimes it is. What is a barrier, really? Not always a wall. Sometimes only a suggestion. Your thoughts drift to the barriers in your life. Obstacles that seemed permanent. Fears that loomed large. Ideas you couldn't reach. But if particles don't always stop at walls, maybe, just maybe, there's softness hidden in your barriers, too. You lie still, but your mind travels. You imagine yourself as a wave. A soft glow of potential spreading gently. You reach not with force, but with possibility. Through walls. Through doubt. Through impossibility itself. At the quantum level, particles exist in multiple states until measured. Their futures are not written in stone. They are shaped by chance, by time, by the smallest tremble of energy. So when a particle meets a barrier, it doesn't decide whether it will tunnel, it exists in both realities. Reflected, and pass through. Until we look, and once we look, we collapse the maybe into a single moment. But what a moment! Quantum tunneling is not rare. It happens in your body right now. In the enzymes that fold and function. In the fusion of stars. In the computers that hum in the dark. It is the silent permission behind processes that shouldn't work but do. It is quiet disobedience. Graceful defiance. It is the universe saying even the smallest things can move through the impossible. The wall is not the end. It is only a place where the rules bend. You begin to understand that the quantum world is not here to confuse you. It is here to expand you. To show that the universe does not always deal in yes and no. There is space, always, for maybe. For just enough. For almost impossible. You breathe into that space. The particle that tunneled did not intend to break through. It simply followed its nature, uncertain, fluid, bold. It had a non-zero chance, and sometimes that's all it takes. You too have tunneled in your own way. Through dark nights of worry. Through questions with no answers. Through fear that whispered, you can't. And yet you did. You were here. The boundaries that once felt final begin to feel negotiable. The wall is not solid. It is statistical. It says unlikely, not never. And in a universe where particles tunnel through impossibility billions of times a second, maybe unlikely is enough. Let that settle into you. The feeling that things might happen even if they shouldn't. That the world at its smallest level is built not on certainty but on grace. Barriers exist, but they are not always what they seem. And now your eyes turn toward the heart of it all, toward the moment when this quiet defiance becomes not just possibility but reality. You're ready to watch it happen. The particle has passed through. But what does that really mean? What happens next when it reaches the other side and no path was ever carved? What does it mean to tunnel with no tunnel at all? You reach the edge of reason. The wall rises before you. A smooth, impassable barrier, silent and still. In the world you've always known, crossing this would require work. A tunnel must be dug, passage carved, force must be applied. But here, in this soft space of maybe and maybe not, something stranger happens. The particle approaches. It should not pass. It should bounce. It should stop. But it does not. There is no tunnel. And yet, the particle is now on the other side. This is not illusion, not sleight of hand. It is quantum tunneling, not through something but through nothing at all. No path is cleared. No route is made. The particle is simply found beyond the place it should not cross. It's like waking in a dream and finding yourself already there. To the classical mind, this seems impossible. But impossibility here has soft edges. You begin to feel that space is not always distance. That presence does not require motion in the way you once thought. At this scale, reality hums with flexibility. The particle is not a bullet, not a dot. It is a probability wave. A soft ripple of potential spreading out like a pond disturbed. That wave does not stop at the wall. It continues through, fading as it goes, like light through fog. And if the wall is thin enough or the wave strong enough, a sliver of possibility survives on the far side. A sliver is all it takes. You are witnessing nature's quietest rebellion, the refusal to be limited by shouldn't. Tunneling does not cheat the rules. It reinterprets them. Says, perhaps things don't move through barriers. Perhaps they simply stop needing to. Imagine standing before a door, locked, heavy, unyielding, and then, without sound or movement, you are already in the next room. Not because you forced your way in, but because, somehow, you were always a little bit there to begin with. Particles don't ask permission. They exist in potential. And when no one watches, when no one collapses the wave, they blur across boundaries. They spread. They test the limits not by force, but by being. And so, tunneling is not about travel. It is about presence. You let that truth settle in your chest. How many times have you waited for a path to appear? How often have you looked for a tunnel, a sign, a way through? But what if the path doesn't need to exist in the way you expect? What if the leap is not about motion, but surrender? In the quantum world, being somewhere is enough. You are now watching the dance from within. Each particle becomes a teacher, gently showing you that reality is not a fixed grid. It is a shimmering field of options. And tunneling is one of its quiet secrets, a whisper that possibility itself can take form. But make no mistake, this phenomenon is real. It is how stars fuse their atoms, how the sun shines. It is how your body's enzymes perform impossible tricks, jumping energy barriers that should trap them in stasis. Without tunneling, hydrogen would not bond. Carbon would not form. Without it, your very breath would not be possible. So much of life rests on this ghostly step. And it is not rare. It happens billions of times each second inside you. A dance of electrons, protons, and nuclei, each slipping past the rules, quietly making you possible. You think about your own moments of tunneling, when you found yourself beyond a doubt, when you crossed from fear to courage without knowing how, when change happened, not by force, but by grace. There was no shovel, no plan, and yet you were already on the other side. That's the tunnel with no tunnel. It is not a thing to build. It is a thing to allow. You drift deeper now, cradled by this strange truth. Not all movement is motion. Not all change requires effort. Sometimes what is needed is presence. A willingness to let the improbable breathe. To exist in the maybe. You feel the boundary between here and there begin to soften. The barrier isn't gone. It's just no longer absolute. And beyond it, a particle waits, not because it was pushed, but because it was probable. You imagine it now, suspended between two worlds. On one side, energy. On the other, emergence. And in between, a shimmer of chance. And isn't that what life is? A shimmer of chance between what is and what could be. You're not afraid now. You begin to welcome the places where rules bend, where the path is not paved, but simply possible. And as your body sinks deeper into rest, your mind glows with quiet wonder. The wall has not moved, but you have. And somewhere in the vastness of your atoms, tunneling happens again. A particle reappears where it has no right to be. And you wonder gently, if even the smallest things can appear beyond the impossible, what else might live in the language of chance?
In the beginning, you craved certainty. You wanted things to be where they belonged. This is here. That is there. A path leads from one to the other. But tonight, you are floating in something softer. You followed the particle past the barrier. You've witnessed the leap. And now you ask, how did it know? How did it choose to be where it was not supposed to be? The answer whispers back, it didn't know. It didn't choose. It simply followed the language of probability. Here, particles do not say, I am. They say, I might be. You are now immersed in that world where everything is described by waves. Not waves of water, but waves of possibility. Each one is called a wave function, a gentle hum of all the places a particle could be, all the directions it might travel, all the forms it might take. And until something observes it, until something measures and interrupts the wave, all of those possibilities remain alive. Like a dream before you wake. You picture a landscape of soft hills, each one a peak of probability. A particle isn't a dot sitting on one hill, but a shimmer stretched across them all. Some peaks are higher, more likely. Others fade low, less likely. But none are gone. Not yet. This is what guides tunneling. Not a path. Not a push. But the simple mathematical truth, it could happen. And if it could, then it might. You begin to feel the elegance of this system. A universe that does not declare, but suggests. That does not command, but allows. The laws of physics at this level are not strict pronouncements. They are probabilities, fluid, fluctuating, serene. Imagine rain on a still pond. Each drop makes a ripple. Each ripple overlaps with another. Where the ripples reinforce, waves grow strong, likely. Where they cancel, they disappear, unlikely. This is how a particle speaks, through patterns, interference, rhythm. And this is how it listens too. It does not decide its future. It becomes it, shaped by the waves. You feel this idea echo in your own life. How many moments were guided not by certainty, but by chance? The friend you met by accident. The book you picked up at the right time. The silence that led to a thought, that led to a change. Probability is not just in physics. It's in memory, in feeling, in dreams. So you listen more closely and hear that the universe is not silent. It sings. A soft song of what might be. A chorus of maybe resonating in every space between atoms. It's strange comfort, isn't it? To think that your world is built not on solid bricks of is, but on drifting clouds of could. And yet somehow it holds. The table beneath your hand. The breath in your lungs. The stars above. They all arise from quantum uncertainty, from waves that collapse into reality only when they must. You imagine yourself now as one of those waves, stretching across timelines, across thoughts, across all the lives you might have lived, until the moment chooses you. And in that choice, you are here. The particle you watched tunnel was not destined to appear beyond the wall. It was not fated, but its presence there was written in the numbers, in the gentle slope of chance. And now, as your eyes drift closed and your body softens further, you begin to wonder. If the world is shaped by probability, how deep does that pattern go? What lies within the smallest things, the things that build you? What keeps them steady? What guides their delicate dance? The answer lies in the tiniest atom, and in the rhythm it keeps. A rhythm made possible by tunneling, and by the patient heart of a hydrogen atom. You descend again, not into sleep, though sleep is near, but deeper into scale. Down past molecules, past the humming buzz of chemistry to a single atom. The simplest one. The lightest. The first to form when the universe cooled from its fiery beginning. Hydrogen. You know it, though you've never seen it. You breathe it in water. You burn it in stars. You were made from it, shaped by it. And now you travel to its center. A hydrogen atom is made of two parts, one proton, one electron. Just two. And yet, between them an entire world unfolds. The proton sits quietly at the center, dense and still. It holds a positive charge, like a lighthouse in a soft sea of space. The electron, that ghost of matter, orbits, but not like a planet. It doesn't spin in circles or follow a neat ellipse. Instead, it hums. It shimmers. It dances in a cloud of probability, flickering in and out of location. Sometimes near, sometimes far. Sometimes gone. And yet, the atom holds. It stays together. How? The answer lies in tunneling. You see, the electron is confined but not locked. The proton draws it inward like gravity pulls rain to earth. But quantum rules say it can never be pinned exactly in place. It can never simply rest. So it moves. Not in a line, but in a rhythm, appearing here, disappearing there. It tunnels not from outside the atom, but from state to state. From energy level to energy level. Not with leaps, but with shifts. Like a breath moving through rooms. This movement, this quiet, constant shifting, is what keeps the atom alive. You drift closer and you can almost hear it. A faint pulse. Like a heartbeat. It is not mechanical. It is not regular in the way a drum is regular. It pulses in probability. In patterns of presence. The electron does not orbit. It exists around. And in that existing, it tunnels. This tunneling is not occasional. It is constant. It happens billions of times each second, sustaining the shape of the atom, maintaining the distance, preserving the bond. It is, in a way, a promise kept. A promise between what might be and what is. You float now within this delicate architecture. There is space, so much space, between proton and electron. Far more than you expect. If an atom were the size of a cathedral, the proton would be a grain of rice at its center. And the electron? It would be a wisp of chance drifting somewhere along the high arches. The rest is emptiness. And yet, that emptiness is not hollow. It is filled with movement, with flux, with tunneling. Without this dance, the atom collapses, or flies apart. Without tunneling, the electron might become trapped or refuse to settle at all. But it doesn't. It tunnels just enough. Not to escape, but to sustain. You think of your own body. All its atoms, all its cells. Every breath you take is made of trillions of these tiny partnerships. Protons, electrons, trusting each other, dancing, shifting, tunneling over and over. So much of who you are is built not on certainty but on rhythm, on balance between staying and moving. The hydrogen atom whispers this to you. That stability does not mean stillness. That what is most enduring is not what holds tightest, but what flows in harmony. The electron's journey isn't aimless. It is guided by the shape of the wave, the gentle curve of potential. And when it moves to a new energy level, even when that move requires more energy than it seems to have, it tunnels. Like a thought skipping ahead. Like a dream arriving before it's fully imagined. You feel how this connects back to the stars. Hydrogen is the first note in the cosmic song. Every other atom, heavier and richer, is born from the fusion of hydrogen, a process that only occurs because particles tunnel within the furnace of suns. Tunneling is the match that lights the stars. And yet here it is, soft and unassuming, inside a single atom. Inside you. The macro and the micro held together by the same quiet magic. You let your awareness rest there. In that pulse. That shimmering exchange between presence and absence. Between certainty and chance. The atom does not fear this rhythm. It does not cling to its parts. It lets them move. It trusts the pattern. And so you begin to trust it too. You no longer see the atom as a thing, but as a relationship. A duet. And at its center, tunneling keeps the time. You listen for that rhythm in yourself now. The breath that comes and goes. The thought that flickers. The moments that pass between noticing and understanding. You too are made of pulses. Of maybes. Of movement. The hydrogen atom holds you close, not with hands, but with pattern. And from that smallest pulse, you feel something vast begin to unfold. The energy of tunneling doesn't stay small. It climbs. It collects. It ignites. And somewhere above you, far beyond this quiet moment, stars burn, not in defiance of physics, but because of it. And you wonder, how do those stars shine when they never had enough energy to begin with? What secret do they share? With the smallest atom inside you? The night sky breathes above you. You may not see it, but you feel it, a hush so vast it wraps around the earth. A gentle glitter scattered across black velvet. Stars shimmer, distant and calm, like embers from a fire older than time. You rest beneath them, soft and still. But the stars are not still. They burn. And that in itself is a mystery. For centuries, scientists wondered how they did it. The math didn't work. The conditions weren't right. According to classical rules, the heat at the heart of a star, even the hottest, densest core, should not be enough to make fusion happen. Fusion, the process by which hydrogen becomes helium. The way stars shine. It takes enormous energy to fuse two protons together. They repel each other, both positively charged, like magnets pushing away. You'd have to push them impossibly close to get them to merge. But stars, even at their fiery centers, don't seem to have quite enough energy to do that. And yet they do. They burn. The answer lies not in force, but in chance. In tunneling. You return now to what you've learned, that in the quantum world, barriers can be passed without crossing. That particles, when governed by probability, can appear where they should not be. Protons in a star's core squeezed together by gravity, crowded by heat, should bounce apart. They don't have enough energy to climb the barrier between them. But sometimes they don't need to climb. Sometimes they tunnel. One moment they are two separate particles. The next, improbably, they have merged into one. A new atom. A burst of energy. A whisper of light. This is how stars shine. Not through brute force, but through permission. Through a delicate allowance for the unlikely. The process is slow. Each fusion event is rare. But there are so many protons and so much time that these rare events add up. And in those tiny, impossible flashes, light is born. It takes hundreds of thousands of years for that light to reach a star's surface. And then just a few more to reach your skin. Tonight it does. You were touched by photons that began their journey before you were born, before your parents were born. Particles of light born from tunneling events in the cores of stars now settle gently on your face. You lie still, but the sky is moving. And within that movement you feel something familiar. Tunneling is not just a trick of small things. It is the language of transformation. Stars take what should not be and make it so. They burn not in spite of limits, but because of them. Because the universe allows just barely for the impossible to happen. Given time. Given chance. And what a beautiful result. The stars produce more than light. They create matter. They fuse hydrogen into helium, helium into carbon, carbon into heavier and stranger elements. Until, at last, they cannot hold it in any longer. They die. They explode. They scatter their forged atoms across space. And those atoms become planets. Rocks. Rivers. Trees. You are built from star remnants. The carbon in your breath. The calcium in your bones. The iron in your blood. None of it could exist without quantum tunneling in long-dead stars. Their improbable fires became your probable form. So when you look up, you are not just gazing at the past. You are remembering. You are made from the memory of fusion. The stars should not burn. But they do. They should not fuse. But they do. They should not make you. But they did. And if that is true, if you were made from chance, from impossibility, from quantum whispers, then what else might be allowed? You let that question settle in your chest. Not as urgency, but as comfort. If the universe permits this much beauty from this much uncertainty, maybe you don't have to hold so tightly to the idea that everything must make sense. Maybe the greatest light comes not from what is certain, but from what is barely possible. And still here it is. You. The night stretches deeper. The stars burn on. They do not try. They simply are. And you too do not need to try. You are already the result of something profound. Tunneling does not announce itself. It happens in silence, in the heat of a star, in the heart of an atom, in the breath between moments. You rest now in that breath. You let yourself glow from the inside. Somewhere, light is being born. Somewhere, darkness is becoming warmth. Somewhere, particles are defying reason and calling it nature. You feel the pattern stretching beyond stars, beyond fusion, into everything that might be. And in this soft place between sleep and thought, you begin to wonder. If a star can burn without enough energy, can the whole universe exist? In a superposition of all it might become? You are not fully awake, not fully asleep. Your mind drifts in the quiet space between dreams, and in that space you begin to understand the quantum world more deeply. Here you hover, not in one place or another, but in both. This is the state of superposition. A particle like you may exist in multiple possibilities at once. Not either slash or but both slash and. Until something observes. Until something measures. Until a choice must be made. Until then, it lives in the shimmer. You imagine a coin flipping in slow motion, suspended in the air. Not heads. Not tails. But the blend of both. It has not yet landed. And so, it is both outcomes, potential, spinning. You rest inside that idea. The quantum world does not demand decisions before they are needed. It holds space for possibility. A kindness, perhaps, that particles are not forced to resolve themselves until absolutely necessary. And so, neither are you. Tonight, you are one thought becoming another. One breath melting into the next. You feel how your body is made of this, not only matter, but maybe. At the heart of this lies the wave function, the mathematical language of what might be. It holds all possible outcomes in a single, rippling description. And until someone looks, until the wave is collapsed, all those futures remain real, alive, waiting. Like unopened books on a shelf. You are a shelf of stories tonight. A soft library of lives you've lived, might live, are living now. Each decision you made, each turn you took, echoes through a field of branches, tiny quantum forking paths. Most don't lead to vastly different lives. But some shimmer with unfamiliar light. Particles don't resist this. They embrace it. They are not confused to be in more than one place. They are not alarmed to hold more than one truth. They simply are in many ways at once. You begin to let go of the need to always know. To always define. What if you too could live in superposition? Not indecisively but gently open. Not frozen but fluid. What if being uncertain is not weakness but wisdom? You lie still and yet you exist in many states. Awake. Asleep. Remembering. Imagining. Listening. Drifting. All of them real. All of them true. And the universe, it seems, is the same. The theory of quantum mechanics does not only apply to tiny things. Some scientists believe that the universe itself at the very beginning may have existed in superposition. Before matter, before stars, before space itself chose a shape, it might have been all shapes, all laws, all beginnings. And then, with a kind of cosmic observation, perhaps a fluctuation, perhaps nothing at all, the wave function collapsed. And this universe, the one you now lie within, began. It did not happen because it had to. It happened because it could. Like the particle that tunnels. Like the electron that appears in two places. Like the dream that unfolds just as you need it to. You begin to see tunneling not as an isolated act, but as part of this larger pattern. A softness in the boundaries. A humility in the rules. The universe prefers maybes. It grows not from certainty but from chance. And you resting now are part of that pattern. Not a fixed point, but a gentle presence within the possible. You feel yourself stretch. Not physically but metaphorically. Stretch into the different versions of yourself that might exist, the ones who took other paths, said other words, felt other feelings. Not with regret, but with reverence. Because all of them are part of the same field. All of them, for a moment, are real. And now, as the dream deepens, your awareness dims. But before it does, a quiet question rises. If particles live in probabilities, if the universe once lived in all possible beginnings, then what else lives in the softness of might? You drift toward that question slowly, gently, and wonder. If you live in a universe of many possible yous, how do those possibilities shape the life you live now? And what happens when probability gives way to life itself? The night deepens around you. Your breath is soft. Your limbs still. You are no longer observing the world, you are immersed in it. Inside you, life continues. Not the big movements, the heartbeat, the rise and fall of lungs, but the tiny ones. The silent ones. The molecular whisperings of existence. And within those whispers, tunneling. Yes, even here. Especially here. Quantum tunneling is not a distant, abstract idea. It is happening inside your body, right now. Beneath your awareness, beneath your thoughts, in the trillions of cells that make you. Your body is not solid. It is not still. It is a living ocean of reactions. Swirls of atoms and molecules constantly combining, separating, becoming. And many of those reactions, the ones that make life possible, should not happen. Not by classical rules. Some of them require more energy than is available. Others depend on molecules finding just the right shape, just the right moment, just the right connection. And yet, they happen. Why? Because the particles involved don't always wait for permission. They tunnel. Consider an enzyme. A tiny biological machine folded into an elegant shape. It helps a chemical reaction occur, makes it faster, smoother, more likely. But sometimes even the enzyme isn't enough. Sometimes the electron needs to cross a barrier. Too wide, too high. And still, it does. It tunnels. No motion. No path. Just presence. And with that, the reaction occurs. Molecules shift. Bonds break. Energy flows. And the spark of life continues. Without tunneling, your DNA could not be copied. Without tunneling, your cells could not breathe. Without tunneling, the chemistry of life would be a locked door. But it isn't. It is open. Because particles, your particles, move through walls. They leap not recklessly, but precisely. With quantum grace, you begin to see your own body differently. Not just as a system, but as a miracle of permission. Not just a structure, but a process alive because of what shouldn't be possible, but is. You are made of leaps. Of quiet disobedience. In the mitochondria, the power plants of your cells, electrons tunnel across membranes, triggering the production of energy molecules. These molecules fuel every motion, every thought, every moment of your day. You do not feel it, but you live because of it. You live because particles do not stay put. Because they stretch their waves. Because they try the improbable. And sometimes they succeed. You think of all the times you felt stuck. All the moments when something seemed too far, too hard, too unlikely. And yet sometimes you moved anyway. A shift in perspective. A breath. A single word spoken when silence felt safer. These were your tunnels. The small, invisible crossings. The leaps your life made through walls that others said were too thick. You think now of the people you've met. The lives that brushed against yours. The encounters that shaped you. Each one a kind of reaction. Each one a meeting of energy and matter. Each one possible because your life tunneled through something: fear, doubt, distance, and arrived. You lie still and yet you are humming. Not metaphorically but truly. Your atoms are trembling. Your particles are flickering. Your biology is filled with the soundless music of movement. And in that movement, tunneling. You are not just surrounded by quantum possibility. You are quantum possibility. You begin to let go of the idea that life must be linear, that growth must always be earned through force. What if, instead, it happens through presence, through trust, through letting your wave stretch into the next moment? Not forcing, but appearing, just as the enzyme allows, just as the electron leaps, just as the cell breathes. You are not separate from this. You are a body of barriers, and a soul of tunnels. And in this gentle night, you realize you have always been crossing thresholds. Small ones, quiet ones, the ones no one sees but you. And every time you did, a new part of your life began. Not because the wall gave way, but because you passed through anyway. Tunneling is not defiance. It is nature, your nature. And now, as you drift into a deeper stillness, you begin to feel that even sleep is a kind of tunneling. A soft crossing from the known to the unknown, from the conscious to the dreaming. No path, no tunnel, just the presence of possibility. And you wonder, if life depends on this ancient, invisible leap, what might happen? When even thought begins to tunnel into the unknown, you are almost asleep. The world around you has grown hushed. The last thoughts drift like clouds, slow and soft. Your breathing deepens, your body sinks, and yet, something in you continues forward, not outward, inward. Like the particle that tunnels, without path, without plan, you slip gently beyond the boundary of waking. You move through memory, dream, and possibility. There is no map here, but you are not lost. What lies beyond the barrier is not always known, but it is always felt. Sleep is its own kind of quantum space, a liminal state, not fully conscious, not fully gone. Here, your mind stretches like a wave function reaching. You exist in multiple moments at once. A thought from childhood, a song from yesterday, a hope for tomorrow, all alive in the same dream. You are a being in superposition, resting, remembering, imagining, and tunneling in your own quiet way. The rules are softer here, the limits less firm, the thoughts more free. You drift through the walls of time. You pass through the barriers of logic. You feel, not think, your way through the night, just as particles do. You realize now that this whole journey, from particle to star, from atom to life, has been not about breaking rules, but about understanding the softness in them. Quantum tunneling was never defiance. It was always a kind of grace. The universe, it seems, is built to allow for the extraordinary, built to let the impossible whisper itself into being. And you, in your rest, are part of that whisper. Particles do not ask how. They do not pause at the edge of possibility. They stretch, they shimmer, they appear. And so do you. Every dream is a tunnel, a leap across the chasm of certainty, a dance with what might be. And what you find there, in that space beyond the waking world, is not fantasy. It is possibility. Your life has always contained it, not just in your cells, but in your soul, not just in your molecules, but in your choices. You were never only this moment. You were the chance of this moment. And now, in the soft folds of night, you can rest, not because you've reached the end, but because you've remembered the beginning, the place where all things shimmer, the space where all things start. You, particle among particles, a dream among dreams, a wave stretched across the quiet, curving edge of time. Tonight, you do not need to go anywhere, because you are already part of everything. The barrier has no edge, only a veil, only a pause, and you, like the particle, have passed through. No effort, just presence. No tunnel, just being. You drift now into the deepest sleep, not away from the world, but into its very heart, where the quiet becomes vast, where the unlikely becomes real, where all the smallest things begin again, softly, without warning, without sound. And you, wrapped in that softness, feel the hum of the universe inside you. Question still unanswered. A journey always continuing. The story doesn't end here. It folds gently back into itself, where particles breathe, and stars remember, and dreams tunnel through the dark toward light.